Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. So one of my favorite pastimes is looking at junk for sale on Facebook Marketplace. And every once in a while I buy that junk. And last night was no exception. I drove 4 hours there and 4 hours back to buy this moped, 150 cc's for 200 bucks. I'm going to flip around the camera and show you guys. Alright, so this is a 2007 150cc 4-stroke GY6 scooter. It has 4,755 miles on it. It was supposedly running, but spits out the spark plug. So I kind of highly doubt that based on what I've seen. I have no doubt that the spark plug doesn't go in the hole, that it's been cross-threaded, but this battery was at like 1.5 volts, so I've got that on a trickle charger. It's dated 2016. The license plate, which is under the seat, is dated last registered 2016. So I think this bike has been off the road for the better part of the last decade. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a challenge to get it up and running, especially with those kind of miles, and considering these pretty much never get maintained. As you can see under there, it is quite greasy. Definitely some oil leaks to track down. Anyway, so first thing I'm going to do is check for spark. So in order to do that, I have to either charge the battery or throw a new one in, which is probably what I'll end up doing, but I'm going to give it a shot. So I'll cut back when we're testing spark here. Alright, so bit of an update here. I had this battery on the charger for 24 hours, and yeah, I don't know if you can see that, but that date code is 9 years old, almost a full decade. And as you might suspect, it did absolutely nothing, no crank, anything. So yeah, I did get some very dim lights on that gauge there, and that was it. So I have a replacement. I'm gonna go ahead and put that new battery in. I also see we got a zip tie on the ignition coil. Something zip tied to it because that's bolted to the frame. What else we got? CDI's been unplugged and plugged back in. Maybe just trying to defeat a kill wire. And we have a new fuel filter. Has never seen fuel. Our little vacuum fuel pump. Yeah, because the fuel pump is, or fuel tank is down there. So yeah, this isn't as bad as I thought it'd be in here. Not too many things have been modified, but yeah, we still have a little bit of work because there is stuff like this going on. New wires, some crimp connectors. So I'm just going to keep looking through this, see what we got going on, and get that new battery in so we can test spark. Alright, so we got our new battery in. It turns over very fast. If I hit the key, I'll show you here. We also have much brighter lights. And you can also see plenty of spark. So that is really good news. And that's what I needed to know before tearing into this. So now, time to figure out which route I want to go with fixing that spark plug hole. Okay, so this is the spark plug that came out. And I don't know if this is showing up on camera, but on the left side, the crush washer is completely flat. And then on the right side, still uncrushed. So whoever installed this spark plug last put it in crooked and cross-threaded it. So that is the problem, and we are going to have to either replace the head or tap up to the next size. Alright guys, welcome back. It is very chilly out here in the garage, and I am just working on the bike here. As you can see, I got the back off, And I'm just trying to decide if I can do this with the engine in or not, and if I want to. So I'm going to switch around the camera and show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so plastics are off, batteries out again, engines mostly exposed. However, the cylinder head is going to have to slide forward, and that is going to make us run in to the fuel tank down there. So I'm currently trying to figure out if it makes more sense to remove the fuel tank and this plastic cover here, or if it makes more sense to disconnect all these hoses and wires from the engine and remove the engine from the bike. So yeah, I'll check back in once I figure that out. Alright, I got the floor piece off there, and yeah, we actually have plenty of room here. I just have 4 bolts here to remove the fuel tank, and yeah, then we will have a straight shot to pull that cylinder head right on out the front here. Alright, and there we go. The tank is out, and we now have plenty of room to work with. So that is awesome. And I actually drained the fuel tank, and the gas that came out was clear and smelled fine, so someone clearly drained that recently, probably when they put in that brand new fuel filter. So yeah, now we just get to move on to fixing that spark plug hole. See if I can get a zoom in on that. Oh yeah, those threads are gonzos. I have a new cylinder head coming in the mail. That'll be here next week. So yeah, looks like there's a bit of an exhaust leak down here. You can tell by how melted this cooling cover is. That's fun. Looks like we got one stud missing and one not stock. So, I'll have to look into that. Alright, I got what was left of that engine cover off, and it's actually not too bad under here. I do have to remember that this vacuum cap is cracked and needs to be replaced, but that's not a big deal. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and pull that timing chain tensioner there, pull that valve cover, and then the cam, and then I should be able to pull the jug out. Alright, so I got our valve train assembly off here. You see we got a lot of RTB, so someone's been in here before. I have to remember the shims that go to the studs, or the alignment dowels, are on the top left, bottom right. Exhaust side is down for the valve train assembly, so now I need to try to pull it off. That's a pain in the Alright, well, I'm going to wiggle this around, see if I can get it past. Alright, I got it. Top bar piston's looking okay. Little bit of soot, but yeah, nothing bad going on there, no dents or anything. You see we did have an oil leak. It appears to have been, yes, out of the head gasket. So it was losing some compression there anyway. Show you the head. Yeah, yep, there it is. On the exhaust side, it had blown out. So, yeah, this needed to come off anyway, regardless of the spark plug situation. So, time to get that new one on there. Alright, we got the new cylinder head in and valve train assembly on. You can see for the timing we have this on the T. Let's see if I can get a better angle here. Okay, so we have this notch right on the T mark where it should be. And then on this side, the cam, those two small dots are both supposed to line up with the valve cover, which it's hard to see from this angle, but they do. The right side is a little lower than the left side. I guess we'll find out if that's correct when the bike either does or doesn't start, but it looked like if I moved it one tooth either way, it would have dipped one of the two little dots below the valve cover. So we're going to roll with that for now and see if I'm right. So now the valves are quite clackety. This one not as bad as the other, but yeah, these need to be adjusted, so I'm going to go look up the specs for those, get some feeler gauges, and see if I can get those adjusted properly. Alright, I looked up the valve lash spec. I got these set to 4/1000 of an inch. Much better. Now it's just ever very so slightly tappy. Not hopefully enough to create noise while it's running. I did check it with a set of feeler gauges, and on the 4/1000 gauge it was tight to push in, and then it had a little bit of drag. So yeah, these should be set and good to go now. So yeah, now I guess moment of truth. We'll see if we can get that new spark plug threaded in there. Alright, and there we go. We have our brand new cylinder head and our brand new spark plug in. I can see why it's so easy for people to cross thread these, along with them being extremely small threads. If you look at the line of sight here, if you go perfectly on the spark plug, it actually, your extension will run into the frame right there. So it's really easy if you don't start it with your fingers, especially with the cover on, to get this wrong. So yeah, now I guess I will get that valve cover back on and just start reassembling this thing. Alright, we have our valve cover back on. I have to give this 45 minutes for the RTV to fully set before I torque that down. So while we're waiting for that, I'm going to go ahead and put the intake manifold and carburetor back on, and remember to replace that vacuum cap. And yeah, on to the next thing. Alright, I got our fan shroud back on. That's installed. I also replaced that bad valve, or not that bad valve, that bad vacuum cap, so we won't have a vacuum leak there. So now I'm just going to go ahead and put the carburetor and exhaust back on, and yeah, go forward from there. We're getting close to seeing if this thing runs. Alright, we got our carburetor back in. The nut on that side was stripped out, so to reinstall that I just put another nut on there. Everything's tightened down. We have our new vacuum cap. All our vacuum lines are hooked up. Our fuel lines are hooked up. I have this CDI box zip tied out of the way. So yeah, everything is looking good. We're making progress. Now I'm going to go ahead and toss in this fuel tank. Alright, so we have our fuel tank bolted up and in place. We also have our exhaust hooked up. I need to wait for that RTV to seal up. I'm going to give that 24 hours to cure. This exhaust is just what the bike came with. It's pretty janky. Eventually I plan on doing something a little more permanent that looks better, but for the time being, this should be enough to test fire after that RTV is cured. Alright guys, all our RTV is cured, and I've filled up the fuel tank and topped off the oil and put the battery back in. So let's see if we can get that fuel system primed, and maybe, just maybe, fingers crossed, this thing will fire up. Alright, let's see if we can get this fuel system primed. good. Getting some fuel moving. Give the starter a little bit of a break. So we're getting some fuel moving. I don't know if we got any on the output side yet. That's pretty fogged over and hard to tell. I haven't cleaned this carburetor or anything yet either, so who knows if this will actually fire up. Crack the throttle a little bit. Okay, so okay, so when I crack the throttle, I lose vacuum, and the fuel pump doesn't turn, so... Oh, it is back draining. I think I'm going to pull this off and add a little bit of fuel there, just to get some in the carburetor. Or, yeah, either that or I could shoot some starting fluid in the intake vacuum port there. Yeah, I might do that. Alright, so it does run. The starting fluid worked. It looks like I might have a little bit of carburetor work to do, but our valve timing is good. That's awesome. I'll fire it up again and show you guys here. So yeah, I just got the can of starting fluid here. Clear that out. Okay. Give that a little squirt. Fire it up. Oop. Wow, we're getting close. I think I might be able to take the vacuum cap off, or put the vacuum cap back on, take the starting fluid out. Try this again. Whoop. Oh yeah. Oh my God, this is so loud. Holy crap. Oh, man, that stinks. Yeah, I definitely need to do some exhaust work, but we got a runner, guys. Alright, so this homemade exhaust here that came with the bike, yeah, this is not a muffler. It looks like a muffler. It doesn't muffle. So I got this motorized bike muffler laying around. I think what I'm going to do is just kind of chop it right around where that hose clamp is and then weld on this muffler, and if the performance is, you know, acceptable and it doesn't have any huge dead spots in the power band, I think I'll just roll with that. It's something I can try. So we'll give that a shot and just basically hack that off, hack this off, weld them together, put a better hanger on there, and see if that sounds any better. Alright, so I got those pieces cut off. We have our muffler there. Got the metal cleaned up with a wire brush. I think I'm going to angle this up a little bit like this just to give it a little more turning angle and better look. So yeah, going to go tack that in place and then weld it all the way around. Alright, there we go. We have our muffler welded on. I also welded on a hanger here instead of that bent bolt. So this is nice and solid. It's not the prettiest thing, but hopefully it'll be a little more reliable, less floppy, and sound a little more polite. So yeah, get this thing off the blocks here and see how it sounds. Oh, I did also remove the center stand here just because it was all bent up and scratched and was clearly dragging, and it was in the way of the exhaust. So yeah, this is much nicer. So yeah, let's see how it sounds. Alright, here we go. That is much more manageable. Yeah, still might need a little bit of carburetor work, but yeah, that is much, much more manageable. All right, a bit of an update here. I got the carburetor off. Um, this idle circuit here, that was a 35. I bumped that up to 40. The one in the middle also was a 35, bumped up to 40 because that's just my smallest drill bit. And then the big guy there, that was a 108, and I bumped that up to a 110. These two small ones were completely plugged, so there was also some rust in the bottom of the bowl, so I'm guessing that's what clogged it up and why it wasn't running for more than a few seconds. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll work now, so I'm going to put this back together and give it a shot. Alright, the carburetor's clean. It runs longer now. It doesn't necessarily stall immediately, but it's still like when you rev up the throttle, it still just kind of jerks and goes like boop 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 instead of actually revving up. So yeah, I think I'm gonna swap out that ignition control box, that CDI thing. I have another one laying around. See if that changes anything for the better, and see what happens next. All right, so I tried this other CDI here. Um, And I don't know if it was just junk or if it was meant for a 50cc or what, but this didn't work at all. We lost spark. So I put the original one back in, and it does that thing where it runs for a little bit and then starts jerking again. So I've also noticed that the battery's running dead every time this happens. So right now I got it on a charger. I don't know if it's just because I'm cranking it a lot or if it's like a 3-year-old battery. But my plan is to see if I can get a voltage meter on the battery while it's running and see if I'm losing voltage or gaining voltage. I think the charging system might not be working properly. Alright, so I checked it and it definitely is charging really hot actually. We're hitting like 15 volts. Um, I did get it to finally run. I had to rev it up to the point where it started moving, which was a lot more than it seemed like it should have taken. So I don't know if like the clutch on the CVT isn't like spinning out properly, or like the little weighted balls inside of there are like gunked up or something. But it seemed to get better the more I tried it. It was just that transition point of standing still to moving where it was having issues. So I got it on the charger right now. I think I'm going to finish assembling it and then try riding it around and see if it clears up with it moving more. All right, and there we go. The scooter is more or less back together. We have a few zip ties here and there, missing some of the bottom panels that it didn't come with, and then that bottom panel that just didn't fit because the other two pieces weren't there that it screws into. But yeah, I mean, it's back together. It runs, kind of. Think it's time to go take this puppy for a spin. Alright, so here's an interesting update. I've been playing around with this, swapping vacuum lines and whatnot, and at one point I noticed that on this side of the carburetor there was fuel coming out, and it turns out that is a fuel overflow port. So, yeah, long story short, if I disconnect the vacuum hose going to the fuel pump, after about 5 seconds, the exhaust quits rolling coal, and then it starts revving really nicely and running good. And then after maybe another 15 to 20 seconds, once it drains the fuel, you can see through the filter, once it drains the fuel out of the lines, obviously it runs lean and stalls. So for some reason, this fuel pump is sinking the float, which is odd because it looks like it came with the bike. Like, I don't know, maybe it has been replaced. Maybe the carburetor's been replaced. I'm not sure. Anyway, I think next I'm going to try a gravity-fed fuel setup. Maybe just put a tank up top for the time being. And if that works and it runs good on that, just roll with that. And if not, looks like I have to replace the carburetor. All right, bit of an update here. I hooked up the fuel tank from my bike for gravity feed temporarily just to see what was going on, if the pump was overpowering the carburetor or what. Yeah, and it started just spewing fuel out like crazy, which I couldn't tell before because this would stop pumping whenever the engine turned off. But yeah, got a lot of fuel that leaked out. This carburetor, clearly the float isn't working anymore, and that's just flooding it out. So yeah, I'm just gonna get another carburetor. All right, so I got the new carburetor in the mail. I'm just trying to get the old one off. Turns out, yeah, this thing has like every little thing you wouldn't imagine to be worn out is. Like, look at the threads on that cable. Oh, it was a nightmare to get that nut off. But now I should be able to remove the throttle cable and then the carburetor and get the new one on. So I got the brand new carburetor in there. We got our enricher circuit hooked up. Got our vacuum line hooked up. And our fuel pump outlet hooked up. Just charging the battery here for a bit. And then this puppy should crank on over. Alright, so I got it running, and it works pretty well, actually. However, the idle is just way too high. So I'm just trying to adjust that throttle linkage there in order to try to get the idle lower so it doesn't idle at 15 miles an hour. So I'm going to go do that and then go for a ride. Alright, we got our throttle adjusted. You can see it is sitting on that screw where it's supposed to. And then if I turn the throttle, it returns where it's supposed to. So hopefully it'll idle a little bit lower now. Nice. Just butter smooth. You know, this didn't turn out half bad. Alright, time to go ride this sucker. Alright, time to take this puppy out for a ride. Got the towel on it just because the seat's super gross. This thing sat outside forever. Alright. Let's see here. Correct the throttle just a tad. There we go. Hey, and you guys can finally see me. Alright. Let's go ride this scooter around. Oh boy. This is faster than you would expect, considering how many miles are on this. Was 4756. Holy crap. That is insane for a cheap little scooter. Woo! Oh, I actually have to pay attention to the speed limit for once. That's how fast this is. Oh man. Let's see if our blinkers work. Yeah? We got that one. Oh, does it cancel? Yes. Okay. Got some various rattles here and there. I'm sure that is the exhaust, which is questionably held up. Alright. Yes. Okay. Blinkers cancel both left and right. We have a dead fuel gauge. That's pretty common on these. The floats just kind of fall off and go into the tank. Speedometer is working just fine. Front brake, very good. Back brake works just how it's supposed to. That is actually amazing. Let's try our horn. Oh man. Well, can't keep it now. Horn doesn't work. This thing is actually like just super smooth. This is hilarious considering how much of a pile of crap it is. Yeah, that exhaust rattle is, or scratch or whatever that noise is a little annoying, but yeah, this mirror's a little of adjustment, but yeah, everything actually works, dare I say? And it's not knocking or anything. That's actually super awesome. Alright, let's see what we got for traffic. Yeah, we're good. Alright, here we go, out on the open highway. Okay. Yeah, this is actually really stable. Very windy and cold. It's 37 degrees out right now, but I mean, we're going 40 miles an hour. Alright, I think that's enough for today. Oh, that's cold. That is really cold. Woo! Alright, returns back to idle, goes out of drive, back to neutral. Awesome. I don't know if you could see this, if it's in focus for you or not, but right here you can see the sleeve that this throttle sits on is cracked almost all the way around and hanging by a thread, so that will need to be addressed eventually. The grip also was sliding on the plastic sleeve that goes over the handlebar, so I super glued that, and that's working. Yeah, I think we'll cut across here. A little bit of gravel won't hurt anything. It's nothing this bike hasn't seen before. Yeah, this is actually like a perfect little in-town runabout. Oh, not as much highway capability as I would have expected for 150 cc's, but you know, the throttle is holding it back because I am scared of opening it all the way and breaking it and then having to walk home. And also, I'm sure the belt's not in the best condition, but I mean, it's stable, which, I mean, okay, never mind, take that back. It immediately dives to the left if you go no hands. Okay. Good to know some things aren't too good to be true. But, yeah, this thing's awesome. The roll-on is not bad. I mean, it's a CVT, so, I mean, it's technically downshifting, so I guess I don't know if I can call that roll-on power, but, I mean, it has some. It's definitely faster than the 50cc scooter that I used to have. Oop. Something just hit the fuel tank. Oh. A little door fell off. I better fix this. Slide that in there. Yeah, there we go. Every single plastic piece on this was broken, and as you can see here, had to be zip tied back together. Because someone that didn't know what they were doing took it apart many times. This is kind of like an old go-kart. It's been, you know, farmer fixed many times. Every time it dies, someone tried to limp it back together. I could see their tool marks and stripped out bolts everywhere. So, yeah, that's just part of the territory of buying a super cheap and crappy bike, I guess. But I am actually amazed. Like, let's get over to the exhaust side. Like, it's not even blowing smoke. Like, holy crap. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. I really wonder if this is the original engine, to be honest. I mean, who knows at this point. But that is a ton of miles for one of these. And I didn't even change the oil yet. I just topped it up. Oh, man. Which usually
Man, I don't know, it's just a test drive, but usually I would change it on something that I cared about at all immediately, especially considering how low this one was. I figured out where it's going after parking it in my garage. It's all on the floor. That's where the oil's going. So yeah, give you guys a little lean back, see the handlebars. Oh yeah, this thing's a powerhouse. Go down the loop here, or up, taking it backwards. Oh, exhaust clears and everything. Nice. Oh, this is actually maybe a little bit of too much fun. If I fix that throttle and I can just really crank on that carb, I guarantee you this would do low highway speeds. It should be on par with that other Chinese bike that I had last summer. And that motorized bike muffler really doesn't seem to be holding it back at all. I was a little concerned because it's on the smaller side, because I couldn't find a muffler for this. Well, I mean, I could, but they were used in the whole pipe assembly, and they wanted like almost as much as I paid for the whole bike, so that wasn't going to happen. But I mean, it's quiet. I mean, it's not as quiet as what this would have been from the factory, but it's certainly livable. Anyway, I am getting cold fingers. Brr. So, yeah. Oh, this is April, by the way. This is not recorded, like, way ahead of time, at least not this part of the video. Yeah, still lots of snow. We got our first rain last night. Brr. Anyway, I think I'm gonna roll on back home and wrap up the video here.
Alright guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and hit that bell so you are notified when the next video comes out. And I'll catch you guys next time.